The most reliable truck ever is having ever more issues. What was meant to be some routine maintenance on my 7.3 Powerstroke has quickly escalated into a whirlwind of problems.
Come on! Please don't be transmission problems.
I thought I'd just tackle a few basic items, like an oil change, tire rotation, fixing an exhaust leak, and the crooked tailpipe on my new MBRP exhaust that I just fitted. But then, other things happened. So, what went wrong? And more importantly, how do I fix it? Stick around, because this is just the beginning. And now, most importantly, it needs to turn on. We'll start 2 weeks back with the easy stuff, where our journey begins at Wally World.
Must have had a little oil leak here.
Just like my 7.3, funny enough. Now we can jack the truck up and try out our newest tool.
Perfect. This thing fits. Close enough.
While it's draining, I'm gonna work on the next item on the to-do list.
Well, the oil drains, I'm gonna focus on fixing this exhaust tip.
Because, as you guys mentioned in the first video where I installed this, something doesn't look right with it. I thought it looked a little odd, so
I'm gonna take this thing off and see if I can adjust it.
It should be dumping higher up here. And where I have it is clearly wrong.
You guys can see it's already riding pretty close to my shock. Very close.
So I loosen the clamp holding the tailpipe portion on so I can remove it. Then loosen the over axle pipe clamp that'll adjust the orientation of the tailpipe and where it sits. And by that time, the 7.3 dropped every last drop of old oil out into my new Harbor Freight oil can thingy. So I can put back in our drain plug and go about removing our oil filter. I put this thing on hand tight last time. Not sure why I need channel locks to remove it this time. And once I let it drain for quite some time, I didn't exactly remove the filter per se. I removed the filter a bit of a different way.
love when the oil filter slips out of your hand.
I really wish I could say I put this oil on my face on purpose as a skit. Truly. And began to question why I didn't pursue that career in glove modeling like everyone told me I should. But after a quick change of clothes, a wipe of my tears, and oil off my face, we put in the fresh new Motorcraft FL 1995A filter. What most people recommend. And the only filter I've used since I've had this truck. It's cheap, it works, and there's a link for it down in the description below. Then it's under the hood to fill with our Rotella concoction of choice, T6 5W40. I like to use full synthetic in the winter because it seems to help with the romps, which is what she did at the start of the vid. I'll put a link down below for this stuff too. Amazon usually has really good deals on this stuff in the quantity we need for the diesels. The next morning, it's straight to work on the exhaust leak, and I think I know right where it's coming from, I hope. The downpipe. So I'm removing the clamp now.
Well, this definitely does not look right. So we've got the old band clamp here, and we've got this little ridge right there. Don't know what happened there, but don't think that's correct. But then we come up here, grab the actual bolt that's on the clamp, and look at those threads. I don't know how that happens. It's only a tiny little 1/4-inch wrench that you can use on these. 1/4-inch ratchet you can use on this. I didn't think that'd be enough to destroy those threads like that.
But here we have our new clamp.
And it does look about the same. Now I had to get a Dorman clamp, so we're gonna get this clamp on there and hopefully it fixes it.
Thanks to everyone who pointed out in the MBRP install video on the truck that it sounded like I had a leak, because I didn't even hear it at first. But now we can finagle the new clamp around the turbo outlet while simultaneously pulling the downpipe up into position. Not the easiest task alone. I think it's going to be easier, since we still need to finish adjusting the exhaust tip, to just remove most of the exhaust. Then I can angle the downpipe as needed to get that new clamp on. And my helpers weren't much help.
Hi, Benny. Hi, buddy. Are you gonna help in the truck, huh? Are you gonna help in the truck?
He seems amped for the opportunity.
Nice.
I'm able to finally get the clamp on and tighten down, which means I can reassemble the rest of the exhaust pipes and get the orientation correct for the over-axle pipe, so our tip sits where it should. You can see the little adjustments we make to the over axle pipe changes where the tip comes out, until it's finally in a spot that I think looks good.
That is much better.
Everything's all tightened up.
I had to have Ty help me hold everything in place. Now let's start it and see if it's leaking.
All right, well, it's been as cold as my ex's heart out here. It's about 12 degrees or something. The truck's been cranking a little slow recently. I figured it was just because of the time of the year, but now it won't crank at all. It was doing pretty much the same thing it did before I took it out to New York to pick up the Caddy, but that was the solenoid on the inside fender that ended up being the culprit, because it was, spilling its guts out. And my solenoid, which is now only a few months old, is fine. At least it appears so. So I climbed under the truck to further investigate. And I found right away what was going on. This is what this cable should look like. And here's mine. Corroded to a half moon style connection, which doesn't exist. And it just fell right out. Now, a couple options here. I could crimp on a new lug at the end of the cable, hope that it holds. The end of the wire isn't in beautiful shape, or since the cable's showing its age, I could replace the whole cable. And based on the shape that cable's in, I'm gonna go with that option. And so a few days later, our new upgraded parts arrived.
No, thank you. Always something we like to see.
Why fix that one cable when, in all reality, the truck's 24 years old, and a lot of the cables are probably in similar shape.
Feeler gauge, perfect for opening boxes.
I don't know about you guys, but electrical issues are my biggest nightmare.
Beefy.
This is the Big 7 cable kit from the guys at Jeep Cables, and it's gonna completely renew the truck's starting electrical system. Seeing as though I'm in the Arctic North that is New Hampshire, and my truck has had quite a few starting electrical issues, this sector of the truck qualifies for the upgrade department.
Thank you.
We're gonna upgrade all the cables. These wires are over 20 years old. It's just not enjoyable to be out wiggling wires around or climbing under the truck when it's parked in snow to mess with stuff, especially now that it is a degree outside. It's got the battery to starter cable we need, along with new upgraded wires to the whole starting and battery system.
Boy, these cables are beefy.
We've got our battery to block grounds, terminal boots, military-style battery terminals, fender to battery ground, and block to frame grounds, positive crossover cable, and starter and solenoid cables, and candy cane.
Thought this candy cane was an electrical part at first.
Much too frigid to be working outside. So I climbed underneath and...
We got the truck in the garage.
Just barely wouldn't fit.
I gotta figure out some way to block the rest of this door off so we're not letting all the heat out.
So I had the cunning plan to surround the cab and garage door with blankets and an old car cover. Let's see if this holds up on the windiest day of the year.
Sometimes my genius is simply frightening. And it looks like it's sealing for the most part, besides the obvious. And of course, I know there's still air coming in from under there, but you know what? It's better than working outside. Anyways, let's get started installing these cables. These things are freaking heavy.
We start by removing the battery terminals on the passenger side battery.
These things were in much worse shape than I thought.
Then we can remove the battery insulation cover. Then the same on the driver's side battery. Terminals come off, along with the battery cover. This side's got a lot of weird wires that were added by the previous owner. We'll be getting rid of those.
There are these wires. This one went on the ground right there. This one went on the positive. And they run to... I don't know what that is.
Let me know down in the comments if you guys know what that thing is. Now we're removing the battery hold-down bolt so we can remove the passenger battery. Now back to the driver's side, we gotta remove the negative battery cable that goes down to the block. Surprisingly, much easier to get off than I was expecting. I was thinking it'd be covered in rust. Instead, it was caked in oil, which actually saved it from being rusty. Now we can fish the negative cable out from the truck.
All right, first cable's out. Now we just find our battery negative driver's side to engine block. Thankfully they label these things, because I'm an idiot.
I'm going to take some 8 grit sandpaper and quickly scuff up where the cable bolts to, just to make sure we're getting a solid bare metal to metal connection. Once it's clean, we can fish the ground cable back down into the engine bay and bolt it right back to the place the old cable was threaded onto. Now we're removing all the push pins that hold this rubber cover trim piece thing over the radiator to access the crossover cable. This is the positive wire that goes from the passenger side battery over the driver's side battery. A couple push clips and a couple screws, and we can rotate the spare tire kit back to access the cable, which is clipped to the radiator support with these small clips that all break.
Here's this one. Right? Did I mess up? No, I got it.
The positive wire is just kind of strange from the factory, which you'll see in a sec. It's secured with this little loop thing. Now down to the starter, which is the last place our positive cable mess is connected. A lot easier said than done. The main cable comes off easy, mainly because it's the one that fell off and I just rethreaded it on lightly to move the truck into the garage. But the wiring going to the solenoid, that's a different story.
So, as you join me down here for the moment,
You see, this is what fell off. Right here.
This small wire, which I believe is the signal wire for the starter, wouldn't thread off. And then it broke, which brought me to the grim realization.
I have been messing with this bolt for feels like an hour now. And unfortunately, I think I'm just gonna have to drop the freaking starter.
And an hour and many creative curse words later.
Well, that sucks. All that for one little wire.
But now the power cable extraordinaire is almost out. I pull it up from the depths of the engine bay, then disconnect it from the 2 posts on the starter solenoid on the fender. But with those removed, the mess of cable is out.
Now the whole positive harness is out.
That is one jumble of wire. Good riddance. Now that's out, let's take just a sec to talk about the sponsor of today's video.
I find myself, like many of you I'm sure, when I take a break from working, I sit down, hop right on my phone or computer, and head straight away to look at cars that I do not need.
And I've been doing all my browsing on Copart and IAA, where tens of thousands of cool crash damaged, flooded, stolen, or repoed cars are auctioned off.
But there's one problem. Unless you're a dealer, own a scrapyard, or some other type of automotive business, you only get access to a fraction of those cars. Trust me when I tell you, it's not the good ones.
But now there's a way around it with Cars for Bid. Cars for Bid lets you bid on and buy all the same cars the big YouTubers and dealers have access to, all with no annual fees or registration costs.
And the best part, you can pick any car from Cars for Bid, place a bid, and if your bid doesn't win, your deposit gets refunded automatically. All right, well, it's been enough fun looking. Time to get back to my own project. Thanks, Cars for Bid.
Now we can put in our small ground cable from the inside passenger fender to the passenger battery. Now we can start to thread the big beefy boy new and improved power cable down to its position near the starter. But then I stopped because I had an idea. Since the small signal wire on the tiny little post on the starter is nearly impossible to get to with the starter bolted up to the truck, I'm going to tighten on the small signal wire and the large power cable to the starter before I bolt the starter up. Then I'll just fish the power cable up to the passenger battery instead of vice versa. And now, both connections are threaded on.
Right, so my idea here is, because this was such a pain in the arse to do and undo while it was up in the truck, hence why I had to pull the whole starter. I have these connections made. I'm gonna try to run the starter and then run these cables up backwards, kind of the opposite of the way that you would think to do it. I hope it works, because if it doesn't, I'm going to scream, but let's give it a shot.
So I put the wires up first, then the starter, thread in the bolts. That top bolt sucks.
Oh, hand cramp. Oh, that hurt.
Then I can run the wire up and out to where it's going to connect to the battery. Now we got to get our passenger side ground cable set. I'm removing this bolt here below the alternator, putting on our new cable, and tightening back down the nut. Then I can put in the passenger side battery, clean up the terminals with this little terminal cleaner that doubles as a painful self-satisfaction device, so we can put on our corrosion-resistant military-style battery terminals. Definitely will be a better conductor than our old ones. Yikes.
I'm gonna hope that little P right there means positive.
Which I'm just putting on finger tight for now. I want to lay everything out first to make sure it's all correctly positioned and everything's right before I melt my truck. I'm scared of wiring since I caught the caddy on fire. The next morning, I start to sort out the connections and actually hooking things back up. This all needs to be right, or I could cause some serious problems and flames.
So now I think I have the wires right. I just want to touch the negative to the negative terminal and make sure that it's not gonna spark. Oh. Huh. Oh. I think we're good. I think we're good.
That's a relief. This truck's got a lot more electronics to damage than the caddy. Now we can clean the terminals on the driver's side battery and route our crossover cable. Since all the plastic clip things that support the crossover cable as it goes across the radiator support broke, I'm gonna zip tie it for now and try to find where I can buy more of those clips. And now all the wires are in, I can put on the terminals on the driver's side battery and tighten down our wires to the correct posts. Then we can see if the truck's got any power.
All right, all the wires are in correctly, I believe. So now it's time to to start the truck and see if it starts. I think we're good. I hope. Cadillac's got me all scared of wiring now.
This wind is taking down my castle. Well, that's a good sign.
Let's see what we got here.
Oh! Is it just me or do those lights seem brighter? Especially that one, you stupid.
But we have gauge lights, the fan is working, the radio's working. Let's see if the most important thing is working. The 7.3 liter.
All right, come on, baby. I'm gonna give it another glow plug.
Oh yeah! Oh. That MBRP, baby. And we're charging perfect. Yep, we've got headlights, very good. Fog lights, very nice. I think that we did it. All right. Last thing to do is sit back and enjoy the fruits of our labor and enjoy the candy cane Paul sent me. Thank you, Paul. I definitely just got some oil off my finger into my mouth.
And the truck was all great for a day until I noticed something strange. The voltage seemed low. Just putting on the wipers or the fan at full speed was taking a big toll on the voltage. The needle would drop all the way to the bottom if I had full fan and full headlights. And to top it all off, the same night I noticed these voltage changes, I noticed something wrong with the transmission too. In first gear from a stop, it didn't really want to get going, like it was lugging.
You gotta be kidding me. Come on.
Why? Why, truck? Anything? No, I'm not gonna say that. Please don't be transmission problems.
I love you, but I hate you!
It just seemed like something as simple as putting on high beams with the interior heat blowing max shouldn't be literally moving the volts on the gauge. The truck would almost die putting on high beams, full fan, and the fastest wiper setting. It wouldn't even go into high idle with all that stuff on too. So the next morning, I started with the simple stuff. I rechecked all my grounds, and everything was right and correct. The only thing I discovered was this, just a broken ground strap. But that just goes from the cab to the frame.
Yeah, I think this, that should be, one piece.
I don't think this could be the source of our issue, seeing as though I'm pretty sure this strap has been broke like that since I bought the truck. But, order of operations, I'm gonna head to the parts store and get one. Well, try to get there. I'm in the good old Volkswagen, going to get the parts,
And I'm trying to drive, but it's very hard to shift. This is the only reach I get. There we go, another shift. There it is. Jeez. Could you pick a better spot, buddy?
But we made it there. I got the new ground cable, then I can remove the first ground bolt. This one comes out. The other one, based on the shape it's in, I highly doubt it's gonna come out. But first I try tapping on a socket, spit out a little rust, hit it with a torch quick, then some PP, then realize it's not coming off.
So my best bet is to just drill a new spot for a ground right next to it, not without first grinding the spot down to bare metal. We need nice clean steel to have a good ground, which is why I'm using the die grinder, then a wire wheel, to clean up the spot the best I can. There's the shiny clean metal. Now I can drill this metal screw I had next to the old ground bolt with the ground strap eyelet attached, and put the other eyelet on the other bolt that goes into the frame, after I cleaned up that spot too. But now, it's time to see if this was our savior, which clearly I was hesitant about. The new ground wire's on. Let's see if that made any sort of change. I'm going to take a wild guess and say that it didn't, but I'll humor myself. Eyes on that one. Oh. That's a bit higher than it was. Quite a bit, actually. That's still higher. Let's see when I put on the headlights. No real effect. About full blast on the fan. It's not even moving it. I can't believe that. It's sorted from that. The ground cable's been broken since I've had the truck, I think. What? What started as something so simple escalated into quite the whirlwind of things going on with the truck. But now she starts, she runs, she charges as she should, and shifts as she should. And I think we'll call that a win. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Happy motoring. I definitely just got some oil off my finger into my mouth. That's interesting.